So I'm here to tie this in with the last couple of videos that I've been doing. It's basically kind of one long series because it's covering the entire state of Colorado and the history. And the reason why I'm trying to show you this is because of the impossible feat which was taking place. All right, 19 or 1870 is when Denver first got the railroad. So until then, there was no railroad whatsoever in Colorado unless they started producing trains, which there is no history of that. So this ties into CF&I, and it's very important. But until 1870, there was no rail traffic whatsoever coming into Colorado until they built the Continental Railroad, and then they were able to start furnishing Colorado with rail. So the other one that Colorado is famous for is the narrow gauge railroad, and it's a widthwise it's narrower. And so you have to think about that. So the trains had to be built special in order to accommodate for those tracks. They couldn't be used on a normal track because the other one is 4 foot something. And so when you're trying to put them on, they would just, yeah, it wouldn't work. It'd be like, and so this picture, I was very grateful when I found this. This is actually supposed to be in Central City where these donkeys are actually carrying up mini rail for the mines and stuff. And so I was looking at this and I was like, well, that's kind of weird. They'd even have to bend them in order to make their curves and stuff because they're all straight sticks, unless they had like pre-manufactured 90s and stuff, which I don't know. It's really interesting when you look at history and realize that you've been lied to about everything. All right, so this is what the narrow gauge railroad, one of them looks like. This is the one that was going up to Central City. Also, too, there's very important that you understand of all these name changes and everything, and we'll go through that too. Okay, so CF&I wanted to give you guys an idea of how big this plant really was. It's hard to find earlier photographs that show, without, you'll have to go through my photographs to see what I'm talking about, because it's really hard to find a good photograph of CF&I in the front. And then here's one that I happen to just be watching, and some of these pictures, like I said, are not available to the general public, and there's a reason why, because they want to hide this. Okay, so now I'm showing you when CF&I was starting to be put together, and I want to give you an idea. We're going to look. There's a gentleman standing right here. I'll draw him out. There's a gentleman standing right here. All right, to give you an idea of size and speculation to a person. Now you have to think about it. They had to come through and they had to weld all of this together. All of it. None of it was manufactured and then prefab shipped in on the train. All of this came in where they had to weld all the tubes and everything together. So now you have to think about where they got the steel from. Who supplied them with the steel? Because until they got the train, there would have been nobody to supply them with steel until they got the train in Pueblo, Colorado in 1872, which is really interesting. So we're dealing with basically 25 years here, 30 years. We'll just take it at 30 years of getting basically starting from nothing to building what they did in 30 years. And I'm going to show you where they couldn't have built it in the time frame that they're talking about. And our history is definitely a lie. And I've been able to prove it with the other cities that I've covered, with Canyon City, Salida, Pueblo, and now Central City in Denver, with old photographs showing the irregulars. And then too, I have the photographs where they actually have messed with, like purposely have messed with, so that way you couldn't make out what you were looking at. And so all of this should be alarming to you, honestly. Like everything I've shown you should be alarming because it's showing you that our history isn't what they told us. Now, we can look back and see it at a final, sorry about that, but in the beginning, no. Because let me show you pictures of what CF&I looked like when they were trying to build it. Okay, so here's one of the pictures, the earliest one I could find. I've had to search high and low for these pictures. It's been really hard to. What is going on here? Why is this not working? There we go. Okay, so this one shows where they're actually building it. You can see the steel tubing is actually came in. And you could see that they had to weld all this to put it together. In that earlier photo, they didn't have the crane up here. And then all of this wasn't shown in the background. But this was an earliest picture I could find of CF&I. Here's a second one where it's showing they got a little more progression on the blast furnace and everything going up. You have to see these guys on the catwalk up here. And then all of this, they had no cranes or anything. So everything they put up, imagine that. There was no cranes in order to lift this piece up to that. I'm today, I don't think you could build that. Somebody could come to a construction site and build this without getting a crane. All right, and this is another one that I found. And these are really tough to find. I really had to search for these. But you can see the scale of this and how much, you know, metal would be used in it. Okay, so these are the earliest pictures I could find of it. And these are the two buildings. And now I don't know when they started building these blast furnaces, but you can see an old train right here in these old brick buildings. And then if you go to CF&I, all of it's been rearranged. So back, and we'll go through that when they had consolidations and they remodernized the company. It's all, yeah, when you understand that these guys have basically sold America, bankrupt her, divided up all these countries, gobbled them up, because they're the robin bearers. That's what it represents. That's what they did. And so now that you understand how big this is, and then let me go into here, this one. You can see this is the earliest one I could find, where the skeleton is only for the building. They haven't enclosed it yet. Here's two pictures, and they're close together, but this one, you can see them raising it in this one. And then in this picture, you can see that they have it raised. And then the other thing is this plant was supposedly built just relatively fast within 2 years, basically. All right, so the next one I want to show you is the blueprints of it. Okay, so these were the original prints, and I believe are the original mill that they first built. This would have been the first one that they achieved. And then you can go through and look at these buildings. And then I found the red lines on these where it actually shows where they added all of this to it to show you the mill that we have today. You can see where they already did the copy and cut and paste. And then you can see the old mill and then how they transformed it. And then you can see this massive mill that they built on top of the one they had before. And so that's what I'm trying to tell you. There's no way they could have built all this in the time frame that they did. It's impossible. So my question is how old are we? And you can see that these are true red lines because they got actual red line in it now. But that's what I've looked at prints long enough to know, and you can make out what they had and where they added to in this. And it's let's just actually go to CF&I's timeline to give you guys an idea why it ties into Central City. So we'll close these out. Okay, CF&I timeline. We'll blow this up. And this is why this is so important that you have to go through and read this stuff. But CF&I was basically conducted to incorporation paperwork to conduct business in the territory of Colorado. So that means they already had a form of government. And then in 1873, the Iron and Fuel Company, or Colorado Coal and Iron Company, constructs Minnequa Lake to furnish water for the domestic and agricultural use. And I pulled that up, what that looked like. And we'll go there real quick just to show you guys. This is the lake that they built to feed Minnequa. Okay, so the Colorado Steel and Works Company, the Southern Colorado Coal and Town Company, and the Central Colorado Improvement Company consolidated to form Colorado and Iron Company under the direction of General William Palmer. Okay, so I'm telling you, this is very interesting how all of these names got incorporated. And that's the other one is you go through Pueblo history and they incorporated everything because they try to hide the numbers of how many people were living here. And you guys are going to be shocked when you figure out that we've been here for a long time. All right, just to give you an idea, trying to move through the mountains carrying any type of wood or materials, there's you would be carrying the bare minimum because you're going upgrades and downgrades. That means these have to have really good brakes on them. And then too, you're going over rocks and boulders, so the chances of busting the wheel are high too. So until they actually had roads, and then if you watch one of the PBS specials, they talk about that in the last video, where they tell you that they didn't have any roads. And so when you think about that, and then here I wanted to show you this one. This is of the Central City where they're pulling in a boiler. And supposedly this is really early, and we're going to go through all of it. And I could tell you one of the ways to tell is by these chimney stacks and the architect of the buildings. Like all of it ties in together. You can start putting kind of errors with, errors and errors together and show the pictures, especially when you look at the pictures and notice the same like camera was used for certain times. So you could start putting together what they had accomplished. Okay, so let's go back to Central City. This is so important because you need to find out like a marker, and we did. We found a marker in time. We found the school. The next one we're going to use as a marker. I guess I better stop the video. All right, well, I'm going to stop this video because it's getting long and I'm afraid. But we're going to use these two as a marker, this building and these, and we're going to go through the history. And remember, in 1874, fire destroyed all of this. And I'm going to show you the original one that was destroyed and then this one which was built after it. So once again, how did they do this in the time frame that they had, 30 years? Up in high elevation country in Denver, or the Colorado Rockies, to move all this material without a train. And so you got the train in 1873 or 1870. And that's the other one. There's no real absolute solid date when they got the train. So we'll move on to another one, and I'll wrap this video up, and I'll follow up with the next one.